Hello, everybody, and welcome to another interview with Amicable Scientists. Today, we have with us Mrs. Anasuya Gupta, who is the CEO and Managing Director of CICO Technologies Limited. CICO Technologies Limited is one of the largest and most trusted chemical construction companies in India, and they've been around since 1930. They're known for their pioneering brand CICO. They manufacture a vast range of construction chemicals and protective coating solutions and stand by the motto for developing structures standing the test of time. They operate in Asia and Africa, and today we have the pleasure of having their CEO and Managing Director, Mrs. Gupta, with us. Thank you, Mrs. Gupta, for joining us for this interview. It's an absolute pleasure to have you, and welcome. Welcome to this interview with Amicable Scientists.
Thank you very much, Promit. It's an honor and a pleasure for me as well.
Thank you. Thank you. I thought we could begin with you telling me a little bit about yourself, how you see yourself, whether you see yourself as a product person, a scientist, an influencer, or as a business person, and how does all of this come together for you at CICO?
Okay, these are all very, very big words, but to be honest, I just see myself as a manager. So veering towards an influencer, I have to say that it always helps when you're the final decision maker, because at the end of the day, you're able to change the thought process of people. When I came into CICO, CICO, of course, as you mentioned in your introduction, is a very, very old organization, 90 years. So we've had very old traditional ways of working, processes and things like that. So one of the key issues that I thought that needed to be addressed really was making those changes to be more modern way of working. Even our recruitments were like, through referrals, and we got much more technical about those aspects. Mm-hmm. So really to blend the old with the new, and there was a lot of resistance that I faced with the old. Mm-hmm. And so I think that, again, being in this position helped me. Another important aspect that I thought was a very important factor was bringing in technology and modern technology in terms of IT into CICO. We were one of the first in our space to have business intelligence tool to give us real-time data to make analysis and then make decision making quicker, and of course then reaching to giving the best solutions to our customers. So really, all in all, I think that really helped.
Nice. So you're wearing multiple hats in your role.
Well, as I said, a manager. Yeah.
Very inspiring, very inspiring. So then let's talk a little bit about your impact on the masses. You're a recipient of the prestigious Udyog Ratan Award, which is given to recognize impact on the economy. So my question to you would be, how do you strive to have an impact on the masses through construction chemicals? And what are your success factors in this regard?
So let me say that I think construction chemicals hitherto has been a very unknown factor to most people. It was always there, but I think a lot of people, it was not in the open that construction chemicals is an integral part of any construction that you make, anything. Yeah. So it sort of is used to strengthen concrete. There is a lot of R&D that needs to be done, lab tests as well as tests on site, which obviously mean that whether you need to sort of set the concrete faster or quicker, etc. And so all this goes into making your roads, your bridges, your airports, everything that is used by people like yourself and me and our families. So it's critical that we use construction, that we know that we use construction chemicals in every aspect of our lives, because we use them all the time.
Absolutely.
The second aspect that I was going to hit on, really moving away from infrastructure, which then again, as I said, we don't realize that when we're moving in a fast road, one of the most important components without which that road could not have, made travel easier is construction chemicals. Is again our core competency, which is, for example, waterproofing. Again, that was always a low spend and something beyond the knowledge of most people, because if there was a leakage or a seepage, one would just put a coat of paint and, put that behind themselves. But I think with a young, aspiring community growing and urbanization happening, and the kind of builds that are happening are multi-layered. And so the need for aesthetics and waterproofing is I think awareness of this is becoming now top of the mind recall, because one small leakage or seepage or a wrong workmanship somewhere along the pipes or anything, right from the basement to the rooftop, can impact your entire household. So, it can impact not just a damp spot, but it can get into your way of fire, electricity, finally health, etc., etc. So I think that awareness is now huge, but it's not just, again, the efficacy of the products. To me, I think what is important is, again, the workmanship and the application for it. So if you're asking me how am I helping the masses, there is huge amount of training that we do constantly with our applicators, with our masons, who are taught how to use the product in the correct way, so that there isn't a high spend on maintenance, or there isn't a fallback later on, and you have structures collapsing or stuff like that. And then there's the third aspect that we're looking at very, very closely, is the rural segment. I was talking about the urban segment. Now, if you're talking about the rural segment, with the climate change that we are looking at, there is a crying need to reduce the dust in the roads. And so therefore, we are looking at really dust-free rural roads, which is really going to be the new things that we are looking at in CICO ourselves, which impacts millions of people in the rural segment.
Nice, very nice. So CICO also falls among the top 5 chemical companies in the world, which is a very, very prestigious tag to carry. How do you see yourself in the competitive space, and how do you move with the changing times within this niche? What would be your thoughts about this?
Yeah, well, I'm actually extremely proud to be actually leading an organization which has a legacy of over 90 years. And I think the most difficult and the most tough part is to maintain and sustain that position. Today, really, there is 2 big segments, so which is the organized and the unorganized segment. With the rising awareness of construction chemicals, there are millions of people who've come into this space, and they realize how important this space is. So, and there are foreign players who are coming into to India, because India is a very, very big market. So, for me, I think it's not just the profit lines that we're looking at and the margins that we're looking at. I think the motto is future-proofing what you build, which is our tagline. And therefore, to do complete the work to as much and as close to perfection as possible is what is the key differentiator, I think, between us and most companies. Also, at this point, the government budgeted for the next 5 years is, I think, 102 trillion rupees for ports, airports, roads, irrigation, etc. So really, there's enough and more for people to work with in this space. Plus, the present government has Make in India and Be Vocal About Local as their new motto. And CICO comes really as one of the few, very, very few top companies who fall into this segment. And I think it's time for us to jump in and do our best over here. There is also, there's so much of, as I said, innovation that is happening with the urbanization and the congestion in the cities. The need of the hour is to have elevated roads to make travel faster. And when you have elevated roads, they're normally prefabricated blocks which are brought in. Now, for that, you need to have really products which work as your block joint motors, which then have to take the friction, have to ensure that the expansion and contraction levels are all taken within the elongation sort of space, so to speak. And I think that, again, our R&D is working on, because that's a huge market that we're looking at. The government has also announced a 1.3 lakh crore, I think, as farm subsidies to the agriculture segment, which then will go on to bumper crops and capacity building. And I look at cold storages and warehousing coming up in a big way to store all the farm produce, which then would require specialized floorings, which is, again, one of our strengths. So we will have to look at a specialized flooring which will be looking at this storage. So, really the world is an oyster as far as this is concerned. There's huge amount of work that we can do. And I'm really not so concerned about big competition. I'm more concerned about doing the work really well and maintaining the reputation that we have in the market.
Absolutely. That's very inspiring to hear. Talking about the Indian economy, on which your company has had a huge impact, uh, what would be some projects off the top of your mind that are really close to you?
So, Promit, there are huge credentials, some which we're aware of, some which we're not. Over the
Mhm,
last 90 years, we've really partnered India's infrastructure growth. And I've actually scribbled down in a little piece of paper some of the ones which have had a big impact. And now, um, so for example, all the hydropower projects that we've worked in Chamera 1, Tehri Dam, Lohang, Pala, huge amount of megawatts that go into giving power to our people.
mhm,
Dams, Bhakra Nangal Dam, and things like Tista Dam, where we have worked. We worked, our products have gone into nuclear power stations, big way, whether it is Tarapur, Kota, Kakrapur, and Kalpakalam, or you name it,
mhm,
Uh, thermal power stations, Singrauli, Korba, Ramagundam, we worked in all of those because our credentials are massive in that. So, power segment, as far as CICO is concerned, is really big. We've had huge credentials in roads. Um, Akshardham temple, which is really the largest temple
mhm,
in the world, we've done the entire waterproofing of that. The one which is really close to my heart is in the city of my birth and where I grew up in Calcutta.
mhm,
Uh, the second Hooghly River Bridge, which has the cables, the cables. We've done the
mhm.
grouting of those cables,
How
and
nice. How nice.
because it's part of the Calcutta skyline, it makes me
Mm,
extremely proud of that. And there are also other areas which actually are heritage stuff, like the Parliament Library. We've done the waterproofing there.
mhm,
Others which we really sometimes don't know because it's done through some of our distributors who work in these projects. For
mhm,
example, a couple of years back, I was in Ahmedabad in the Sabarmati ashram with one of the distributors, where Gandhiji spent a lot of his time, and I was told that the refurbishment was done with Tapecrete, which is one of our products in the waterproofing,
mhm.
and then they put the terracotta tiles to top it to give it the old look. So this I didn't even know till I reached Sabarmati ashram. So
I
yeah,
see.
lots of them which then have worked wonders for me.
Very interesting. Very interesting. How is SECO's partnership with scientific institutions? Do you collaborate a lot with research institutes? Do you work with researchers? How much crosstalk do you have?
See, first and foremost, we used to do a lot of work with them, but
Mhm,
of late, I think there has been a reduction. But every product has to have a test certificate, which has to be
mhm,
from one of these institutions, whether it is the IITs or Jadavpur universities or the colleges. We have to have test certificates for our products, and those test certificates have to be given to the government bodies as we present our tenders and things like that.
mhm.
But we worked with some of one or two incubation centers, for example, BHU being one of them, to develop new products. But I wish I could do much more now. But yes, now the fourth generation of CICO has joined in. So I'm hoping that we will have more time to collaborate more with these institutions to come up with, better products and, more different kind of products. Yeah.
How nice. Congratulations on having the fourth generation in. What a
Thank you.
legacy.
Thank you.
uh, So the next aspect then is sustainability. With so much talk on sustainability and sustainable practices, what are your thoughts here with respect to your factories, your supply chains, and the general way you do things at SECO?
So, firstly, most of our products are water based. So, really, there, I think one big aspect is a plus for us because, as far as we don't need to look at the fusion differently from others because there is no factor over there.
Mhm,
The second bit of it is we've developed heat resistant products, which when you apply on the roof and on the sides of the walls, we brought down electricity in a single room in a home by 4%. So that's a lot.
Yeah,
and that
absolutely.
product in an Indian climate with temperatures ranging anything between, I would say, 35 to even 50 degrees in certain places is a huge aspect. We
Mm,
have a product which then also looks at the, when we do the roof waterproofing of certain areas and we cover them, the elongation is 400% as of
mm,
now, and it can go up even more. So for example, when in summer the expansion is huge and the contraction, so there is not a big impact on these heritage buildings because they are built many many years ago. So they're there to sort of refurbish them and to make sure that they can take the temperature changes with our products. That's huge. We are looking at, there's a lot of work happening in the waste management, wastewater management right now, but not enough to reach people. And one of my new projects, really, which I hope will come up next month, is to do this wastewater management where we purify the water and take it back into the sanitation in the rural segment in India. So I'm talking to millions of people. So hopefully that. As far as supply chain is concerned, we source as much as possible from locally. We have 5 factories across the country. So as close as possible to the factories as possible. We source that so the travel time is less and the turnaround time is less, and then we pass on the benefits to the customers. So we don't really need to import sort of raw material or do that. What we'd ideally like to do is reduce the diesel output when we are sending material to power stations and things like that. But that's a far cry because we can't really use rail tracks over there because it goes up into the hills and things like that. Yeah.
nice, nice. Very interesting. So the final aspect that I wanted to focus on is to do with the economic crisis that we're facing right now, with respect to the corona pandemic. So, what are your thoughts on running a business successfully during these trying times, both in terms of the obvious economic aspect and in terms of the precautions that one would have to comply with respect to construction chemicals?
Um, you know, well, the Indian economy, like every other economy, is tanking at this moment. I'm optimistic that we have to keep our heads above water. So, from first on the economic aspect, we've paid all our wages so far. We've not had to have any salary cuts and not done any pay cuts so far, and we are managing okay with that. We've opened all our factories, but of course with extremely stringent rules because we follow all the government norms. So there's sanitization happening every week, or we have temperatures taken of anybody who walks in. We work with 33% of workforce, which then obviously reduces our work time and production cycles. However, the demand in the market has also reduced, so we are fine with that. Um, Unfortunately, today the states also behave in their own independent way in terms of how they react to the spread of the COVID. So sometimes when we have orders, for example, in a state where the products need to travel from, say, Haryana to Gujarat, and then suddenly you will have a Rajasthan, for example, announcing a lockdown or a UP lockdown, then our products really don't reach that place. And, stuff like that. Then we have to ensure we tell our customers how many red zones the lorry will or the trucks will have to pass through. So those are the precautions we ourselves take. The economic slow, I think it is picking up, to be honest. There is a lot of infrastructure work happening because I think the government recognizes that it is closely linked to the disease, because otherwise, unemployment has reached another level altogether. People don't want to go hungry. So I think with precaution, we are able to get there, not to the level that we would have liked to, but I think it's okay. I think we're managing so far. So
That's
I think
excellent.
all
That's
good. Yeah.
excellent.
Yeah.
And things will probably just get better from here. So
I think so, because
That's very
infrastructure has
nice.
to take, infrastructure more than anything else has to happen, because until infrastructure happens, it's like a domino effect. If that doesn't happen, then the rest will not follow.
Yeah.
So I think that's really a key factor. It's the foundation for any economy. So we're lucky to be in this space.
Excellent, excellent. So, as a final parting note to wrap up this interview, what would be your message to scientists turned entrepreneurs, or entrepreneurs who've had a scientific background but want to make their business thrive? Would you have a shout out to them?
I have a motto, which then is never sort of applicable or appreciated by a lot of people, especially in India. And that is that until and unless your intent is to do your work perfectly,
Mhm.
you can never be a successful. You can't be successful in any field, leave alone being in business. And if profit margins are or the top line is your target, you're really in the wrong field, because whatever you do, you are serving people. And so in whichever aspect, whether it is in science or not, you have to make sure life becomes better and easier for people. So you have to be constantly on the job, on top of the game, to make sure that you are actually doing something that the end customer is benefiting from. So if that's your motto and if that's the way to go, I think finally we'll all be successful.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mrs. Gupta. It was an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thank you for taking this time out to speak to Amicable Scientists. And
Thanks, Promit. It was. I hope I answered your questions correctly, or as you would have liked them to be. But yeah, it's been lovely chatting with you.
that and so much more. You answered my questions and offered a lot of additional insight as well. It was an absolute pleasure. Thank you. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you very much, Promit. Bye.